as a mother, as a woman, and as a legislator, I too was heartbroken when I read of the governor's veto of funding for the rape crisis centers. But as a woman, as a mother, and as a legislator, I know that there is positive action that can be taken on behalf of the state's victims of rape. I understand that sexual assault is a growing epidemic in our state, and that every 4 hours and 46 minutes, someone is forcibly raped in South Carolina. Behind these startling statistics are real women and real children, sad stories of violence and betrayal, and these simply cannot be ignored. These victims are our children. They're our friends, they're our family members, they're our co-workers. And assisting these victims, survivors, and I like that word, survivors of sexual violence, is not a distraction. It is not a distraction from government's mission, but it is in fact a public health responsibility. The House and the Senate worked very, very hard over this past session to pass a budget. It's a conservative budget, and as a Republican and as a fiscal conservative, I'm always looking for a conservative budget, but I know that my colleagues in the House will agree. We voted unanimously, Democrats and Republicans, on this budget because we felt it was a fair budget, and this session, this year, one of the first years, we were really able to reinstate many of the funds that have been lost by so many of our state agencies. I realize that it's still a tight budget situation, and tough decisions have to and were made on this budget. But are cost savings the only consideration? I ask you, consider that 81% of women who have been raped will experience some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. They'll experience chronic pain. They'll experience lifelong mental health issues and health issues. Access to an advocate, healing through the state's rape crisis centers can greatly reduce these long-term and what are costly impacts, not only on a victim's life, but on the state of South Carolina. Of course, the best cost-saving factor is prevention, and early education before an assault ever happens is the best prevention. Rape crisis centers, as mentioned, provided prevention for over 50,000 young people in our state. That's elementary school, middle school, high school, and colleges. This is an important place to start with this very serious issue. In my work with the Joint Citizens and Legislative Committee on Children, we have studied the long-term effects of trauma, childhood trauma, and how that follows a child throughout their life and affects their ability to thrive. Over one half of the victims served by the state's 15 rape crisis centers this year were children. Children victims. As a matter of fact, in the Low Country alone, the direct and the immediate cost of child sexual abuse each year, and this is just in the Low Country, is $2.7 million. And that's not to mention the emotional toll that these children will face throughout their life if they don't receive adequate counseling and the healing process. The requested increase that is in question here, that we will be considering in the House tomorrow and the Senate will be considering on Wednesday, will bring that needed prevention education to thousands more of youth. A lot of this money is going to be will be used for the prevention element of the rape crisis centers. And I understand that during this economic downturn, state and private programs have been cut. Their funding has been cut. The rape crisis centers, their funding has been cut 54% over the last 3 years. That is a significant amount of cut in funding. Unfortunately, the number of rape victims has not decreased. On the contrary, it's increased 24%. And so the House budget writers and the members of the House Ways and Means Committee realized that the $435,000 in additional funding was not only justified, but it was necessary given this increase in the demand for rape crisis services. As a woman, as a mother, I will continue with the rest of you, so very brave to come forward, to continue to advocate for the victims of rape and certainly for our state's rape crisis centers. But as a legislator, tomorrow I'm going to send a message, and a passionate veto message to the victims of rape by overriding this veto and encouraging my colleagues in the House to do so. And I also want to be sure that we send a clear and a passionate message to the survivors of rape, and that is, survivors of rape, you are not mere distractions, you are valued priorities. Thank you.